All right, on that optimistic note, Mark, let's welcome our guests who are joining us on this broadcast. Joining us now is Mr. Ravi Joshi, a visiting fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. It's a privately held think tank headquartered in New Delhi. Mr. Joshi, if you can hear me, welcome to this special broadcast. As we are watching these visuals coming to us from Japan of the Prime Minister being presented with a doll at the Shorinzan Darumaji temple. Walk our viewers through, if you will, Mr. Joshi, about the significance of these visuals and India-Japan ties overall from your perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me over. Now, the India-Japan relations they go back, of course, centuries, but let us talk about the post-independence and the time when the strategic partnership between India and Japan begins. That began in 2006, and in about 2014, it took a special strategic partnership, which is an upgraded strategic partnership. With this, what happens now is that there are certain institutionalized mechanisms for dialogue. One is the annual summit meetings between the two leaders, the Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Japan. And then, whenever the annual summit meeting takes place, there are 2+2 meetings take place between the foreign ministers of India and Japan and the defense ministers of India and Japan. So these are very high-level, institutionalized dialogue mechanisms. Okay, it shows the nature of our relationship, and this covers the entire gamut of our relationship. Whether it is commercial, which means trade and commerce, and science and technology, defense relationship, space and pharmaceutical industry and automobile industry and textile industry, everything. And also there's people-to-people exchange and cultural relations. Okay, so this covers entire gamut. Now, in this, the most important thing we have to note is the trade relationship and the security relationship, which has evolved over the last so many years. As far as the trade goes, between India and Japan, there is about $24 billion of trade going on as of now, out of which about $6 billion is India's exports to Japan, and about $18 billion are India's imports from Japan. So we are a net, we are an importing country from Japan, and the balance of trade is in favor of Japan. Also there's an important segment that is investment from Japanese trade and business houses. So there is almost $44 billion of investment from Japan into India since the year 2000. So India is a major investment destination for Japanese corporations. Right. As we know, right from the time of Maruti Suzuki car, and then onwards, the telecom companies, the high-speed rail network project, and also in the field of nuclear reactors. We are importing a significant amount of nuclear reactors for producing our peaceful nuclear energy. And there's also trade in textiles, in energy. So these are a critical industry for India, where Japan is not only an investment partner, but a trading partner. So our relationship with Japan cannot be overemphasized. This is a very important part. Now, should I continue, or you want to ask something?
We also introduce another guest, Ambassador Manju Seth, former senior diplomat, is also with us. Ambassador Seth, if we could look at the bigger picture, this is a special strategic and global partnership. So if I'm going to ask you, Ambassador Seth, where is its greatest influence?
Sorry, could you repeat the last question?
Where is its greatest influence? It's a global partnership, a special strategic and global partnership, yes.
It's an important relationship, and it will have an influence not only in the Asia-Pacific region, in the Asian region, and I think also on other. It is also a kind of indirect messaging to the Western world, I think, and to the US to some extent. And I feel that this visit comes at a time when there is complete geopolitical churn and and uncertainty in the global, geopolitical scenario, and especially with President Trump's actions and President Trump's, putting of tariffs not only on friends but also on foes, and there seems to be no, stopping. And the kind of statements coming out, even against, to some extent against Japan, they have been coming up with statements, even though an agreement was done and a trade agreement was done. But even then, I think there has been a lot of pressure put on all countries across the world, including on India, including on Japan. And I think Japan and India's partnership is a very important, a very important partnership, not only, as I said, in the Asian region, but in the Indo-Pacific region, because we are not sure that the US will continue to be a security provider in the region. So I think we have to build up our own resilience, our own partnership, our strengths, and our economic and trade ties, given the uncertainties which are, absolutely, have been unleashed on the global trading and investment scenario. And yes, Japan has been a very important investor in India. As we just saw yesterday, Prime Minister, or was it the day before, the Prime Minister has inaugurated the electric vehicle plant where the Japanese, it's Suzuki, where the Japanese are major investors and major players, and I think that is something, and it'll be exported to other countries. So I think that is a very plus point and a pointer and an example of the very mutually beneficial relationship between India and Japan.
Mr. Joshi, I want us to delve a bit more, if you will, on the point that Ambassador Seth was making there. This summit is taking place at a time when the US has imposed tariffs on India, Japan, and other countries around the world. Do you think the US disposition or attitude towards both Japan, a treaty ally on the one hand, and India on the other, have imparted a sense of, one, urgency, and two, purpose into the trade talks as well between the two countries?
Yes, there's absolutely no doubt that with the coming of President Trump in the White House, there's a complete churn in the international community. And he has upended the relationship between countries to an extent which was never, ever seen before. He has used tariff as a weapon of not only of commerce, but also of changing foreign policies and security policies of various countries, whether they're friends or foes or allies. Now, the most important thing we have to note is that India has been particularly at the receiving end of Trump's anger about, anger which is actually directed against the Russia-Ukraine war, but India has been on the receiving end.
Would you call it misdirected anger, Mr. Joshi?
Correct. Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So now you know the situation. So we are actually, as the lady ambassador said, that Japan has also been at the receiving end. Japan, which has been an ally of America right from the post-World War period, which has been an ally right for nearly 70 years, it's also at the receiving end of Trump's tariff war. So, but India is much more at the receiving end. So now India, Prime Minister Modi's visit to Japan today and to China tomorrow, on Sunday he will be in Tianjin, is actually a kind of a response to what Trump is doing, that India is not without friends in the world, and India has got its old partners like Russia in the international community, and now we are reviving our relationship, renewing our relationship, which had gone into a bit of a downside with China. So we are sending a strong signal, and of course with Japan there was absolutely no downside between India and Japan relations. They were always very, very cozy and very positive. So now we are strengthening that, but you must remember here, it's a very fine balance we have to play in our relationship with Japan vis-a-vis our relationship with China. It's almost like, Prime Minister Modi going to Japan first and then going to China is almost like Foreign Minister Wang Yi coming to India and then going to Pakistan. So China may actually perceive it like that. because Japan is a partner of India in the Quad system. The Quad is a combination of 4 countries, US, Japan, Australia and India, which is seen by China as an Asian NATO. So that's a very tricky situation we are in. So whether China will still treat us with mistrust or with a sense of discomfort, or will China try to win us over by saying that your relationship with America is completely fraught with danger and you have to come back to the Asian relationship, build up Asia against the rest of the world, which has been one time a policy of both India and China. Before 2020, India and China partnership was growing at phenomenal levels, with Prime Minister Modi meeting Xi Jinping almost 13 times in the last 15 years. So it was an excellent partnership, which actually saw a major setback in 2020 to 2024. Now we are on the relationship is on the mend. Again, there was a bit of a trouble during the Sindoor, but we have overcome the hesitations of other relationships with other countries and are trying to improve our bilateral relations. And with India, Russia, China standing together will send a very strong signal to President Trump. And India, Japan, now, there's already some kind of a speculative rumor that Japan may consider joining BRICS, which is a bit too premature to contemplate, but
right.
It's a very interesting possibility one must look at.
Indeed. Ambassador Seth, while we are waiting for the first visuals to become available to us of the Guard of Honor being presented to the Prime Minister in Japan, let me go back to the point you were making earlier, talking about bilateral trade. Now, India-Japan ties, are marked by political stability. There are no differences of bilateral issues outstanding between the two countries. The two countries also have annual summit-level dialogue and also the 2+2 ministerial dialogue. So, in a sense, the convergences far outnumber or outweigh the divergences. But that said, talking about trade, is there scope for doing more from Japan in terms of investment or manufacturing to give a boost to India's vision of a Make in India program?
Absolutely, and I think that the PM also made very clear in his speech at the India-France Economic Business Forum, and he made it very clear. Mm-hmm. And I think, and if you see over the past few decades, Japan has been a regular investor in India. They've been making in India, including all their companies have been investing here, right. And we have seen that it has, and its ODA, its overseas development assistance, has also been quite a bit in different sectors in India. So being a reliable partner, a consistent partner, and a consistent investor. And already the investment has been growing. Every year we find more investments being made, and they've already committed, including in the high-speed rail sector, in infrastructure, and now also, as Prime Minister Modi has indicated, and I think they have also indicated from the Japanese side that they are willing to invest and work together in technology and innovation, that is in semiconductors and chips and AI. So I think, and of course, in the traditional sectors where there have been all these years, in automobiles, in electronics, and in other, energy sector and infrastructure sector. So I think the nuclear collaboration will only increase, a peaceful nuclear collaboration. And I believe that this collaboration or this partnership with Japan is only going to grow, and its investments are also going to grow, because it has always committed, and it's always been committed to a strong partnership. And also I think some of the reasons are that we have a very, an ancient civilizational connect as well, a cultural connect, and of course, people-to-people connect is also very strong. And these things all contribute to a positive, relationship between the two countries.
Mr. Joshi, you did mention about the Quad. So, to what extent, is the Quad responsible for defense collaborations between India and Japan, and whether this is being seen also as a vision well beyond the Quad, I mean, as a net security provider in the Indo-Pacific, and also the aspect now of economic security being added?
India-Japan relationship has been growing independently of the Quad. Okay, so our economic and defense relationship has been an independent factor outside the Quad combination. Okay, the Quad was basically built up by America to counterbalance China in the Indo-Pacific and the Asian region. And with the Quad, what happened was India started buying more defense equipment from US, not so much from Japan or Australia. So, but what happened is that there have been consistent maritime exercises between India and Japan. Okay, and that is a part of the Quad. You can say that as a part of the Quad. India-Australia maritime naval exercise, India-Japan naval exercise, India-US naval exercise. These have been going around bilaterally and multilaterally. So that is an important factor, and we have been actually, we have been propagating this open seas policy for a very long time, and we have always said that there should be a rule-based international order as far as the maritime boundaries of nations are concerned. That no one country should impose its hegemony on the maritime boundaries of its neighbors. That's where we stand as far as the free Indo-Pacific Ocean region is concerned. So that is where our combined interests of Japan and India really converge. So India is very much a partner of Japan in propagating and trying to assert the freedom of navigation and freedom of maritime waters for all the countries of the region. So that is one major aspect.
Ambassador Seth, you were mentioning about automobiles, and this is a significant area of cooperation between the two countries. We know what Suzuki Motors, Honda, Toyota are doing within India. But we are also moving to EVs and beyond EVs. I mean, there is also the need to try and find hydrogen as a form of vehicle fuel. In this context, do you see, ample areas of cooperation between Japanese technology and the Indian market?
Absolutely, not only Japanese technology, but Indian talent,
Yes.
partner together. Because we do have a lot of, innovation and talent in India as well, innovation being done in all sectors, including in EV, including in AI, and including in the hydrogen fuel sector. And also the fact that there has been a lot of, sort of talk about how, while we have electric vehicles, the source for the electricity charging is still, not green in that sense. So with hydrogen being developed and other technologies coming in and innovation being part of the mix, I think India and Japan will and can work together to further find green solutions, environment-friendly solutions, to energy efficient vehicles, non-polluting vehicles, and fuel and fuel cells as well, and batteries. So there will be innovation, more innovation in the future, given Japan's technical expertise, and it is happening very quickly. They've been innovating quite a bit, as we have seen in all. They've had a head start in technology, over the years. We have seen that in all their, whatever they manufacture. But now I think that the fact that they are investing in India, manufacturing in India, making in India, for India, and for the world market, I think that's a very positive, step forward. And I believe that both the countries and, as I said, the talent of India and the technology and the technical excellence of the Japanese, and I think also their work culture. We have a lot to learn from the way they have a very nice work culture, and I think anyone who has worked in a Japanese firm usually has very nice things to say about how they really love working there. Their culture is so good, and how they promote synergies collaborations even within their companies which they have set up in India. So I think, or even in Japan. So I believe that this will all be a win-win situation and a kind of mutually beneficial, along with the investments that they make. They've always had very good returns on them, and I think that is another plus point for Japanese companies to come to India and to manufacture here. But also, I believe the other way around, where Indian companies are already investing in Japan and working and having collaborations there in sectors where we have certain plus points and I think certain advantages. So I think both countries can work together to build up this relationship even further in every possible sector today, which is of importance: green energy, innovation, AI, and other technology and technical, including nuclear, including green energy, and machinery, automobiles. I think everywhere the partnership in defense as well. I think defense equipment. I think every single sector holds so much of promise and so much of potential, and I believe that it is only going to grow. And with this visit of the Prime Minister, it will be given all these different sectors and all these investments and collaborations will be given a boost, an impetus.
Indeed. Mr. Joshi, while we are waiting for the first visuals of the annual summit between India and Japan to become available, let me go back to the point you were making earlier about this churn taking place around the world in light of the Trump tariffs and Trump's disposition, transactional relationship even with their own treaty allies such as Japan. Now, we've seen in the recent past, we've seen Japan and Australia sign a $10 billion warship deal. We've recently seen Australia sign a defense pact, firm up a defense pact with the Philippines. In fact, a Reuters report, if I can quote from the report, it says, in Japan in particular, there is deepening concern over the reliability of long-time American security guarantees, whether the US will come to their aid in the event of a war, going on to say that some in Tokyo are calling for a reassessment of their non-nuclear policies. What do you make of these developments, Mr. Joshi?
Yeah, that's very interesting what you're suggesting, and this has been, let me start with the churn in the international community brought about by Trump. That's your first point.
Sure.
See, there is absolutely no certainty even in the traditional partners of America in Europe. Let me start with Europe. Okay, now the European partners are feeling so shocked, or the entire NATO partnership with Europe, America and Europe, is now almost, it is in, not exactly in tatters, but is in a very unstable, unreliable, unpredictable situation. The way that Trump dealt with Zelensky, and then the way that Trump dealt with President Putin, completely independent of the conflict situation that's going on, and the kind of promises he made to Putin and the kind of upbraiding he did for Zelensky, it almost it threw entire European partnership off the track. They were completely shocked because neither France nor Germany expected that Trump will actually throw Zelensky under the bus in his desire to make quick friendship and establish a kind of a negotiated settlement with President Putin. If you remember the Alaska meeting, President Trump went to the Alaska meeting by saying that we should first have a ceasefire. But by the end of the meeting, he completely gave up the idea of ceasefire. And he accepted Putin's argument that there should be a peace deal first, not a ceasefire, which actually meant that President Putin will go on advancing while the negotiation keeps on going. Anyway, now coming back to your second point regarding a realization that has come up in Japan that they should now no longer depend upon American security umbrella for their security is a very strong message of their assertion of independence from the old treaty partners. And the second point that you actually made was regarding Australia-Japan defense relationship, which actually stems from the fear of China and fear of China's hegemony in the Indo-Pacific region, where both Australia and Japan are victims of China's overreach. And if both of them are realizing this and are building up a maritime defense partnership, it's a very strong signal, not only to China, but to America, that we can do without you in this region. Now, there was a time when America was the pivot. Actually, America used Australia and Japan as the pivot in its counterbalancing efforts towards China, and America became the net security provider in the region. Now, America is no longer regarded as a net security provider, either in the Pacific or in the Atlantic. So, what happens to America's great promise of being a security provider to Europe or to Asia? So, it's in a completely unpredictable situation we are into today with President Trump. And nobody knows his mind, and nobody can exactly say whether we can depend upon America for this or for that, and how do we shape our foreign policy or security policy. So this is, if the old allies of America are facing it, you can imagine the plight of India, which has never been
Indeed.
as strong an ally of America as Europe was, or as Japan was. So we are all in extremely uncertain waters.
Uncharted waters, some would say.
Absolutely, absolutely, uncharted waters. So, and Indo-Pacific is a turbulent sea, So we are, so we have to build up our own, Atmanirbharta gains a completely different nuance here. Atmanirbharta with allies who are equally threatened by somebody else. So that is another aspect of the security scenario.
Indeed. Let's take a look at, the strength of economic ties between the two countries. Prime Minister is expected to give a new fillip to the India-Japan economic partnership. It's a partnership particularly in the domain of trade, investment,